Yeah, see how it goes.
So yeah, so we're setting up for Pinball Expo, and so we've had actually a couple owners. I refused entry, and I never refuse anybody, but it's like, you guys got to wait, because they'll come in between, and there's lots that we want to do. We have to clean and get things organized and kind of all that stuff. So we're kind of like in mid. We started. This will all be set up, and as you notice behind you, we have samples. Cabinet samples, playfield plastic samples. We've had to learn how to do all of this, how to make playfields, get all the inserts, on and on. So we went to some of the companies that build the cabinets for the current pinball makers, and they just told us to go away. We can't do anything for you. So we had to set up our own. So we have a secret wood shop, wood facility. It's huge, that we do our cabinets and playfields, and because nobody would do it for us, so we had to figure out, what wood to use and all of that type of stuff to come up with our own design. And interesting enough, when we started, we had a 90s, like a Williams cabinet, and the decision was, and I sketched some stuff, and it was just look cooler, and we were like, okay, do we use the Williams cabinet, or do we do our own design? So we chose to do our own design. We got a patent on it. And now, 2 years later, 2.5 years later, with 4 other people making, boutique games, they're all using the Williams design. So we kind of got lucky that now our games are defined as, our games, because our cabinet's a little different. It's our design. We control it. So there's a lot of decisions like that happen that you just can't see that far in the future, so you kind of go with a gut feel. It's like, what's going to be cool, what's going to excite people, what's still pinball, because you can't change the cabinet too much, because then it's, a little thing clicks, and it's like, I don't like that, because you've changed the paradigm, you've changed the icon. So as a designer, I'm always thinking of those things. Well, how do we make it cool and edgy and new, but not weird? Because people are going to know, it's whatever, it's weird. And and some of the other boutique makers, there's a little bit of kind of weirdness in their stuff, and then people kind of pick up on it. And they may not pick up on it, they might not understand like what they're seeing. They just know, I don't like that. And an example is like the full-size back glass. So all our games, we have full hand-drawn, the giant back glass like Circus Voltaire. For a reason, because people like that. They like the artwork. A lot of people leave their games on. That's what I do. I just look at it. I don't want a big black thing there or a little squidgy piece of art. I want a nice hunk of art on my pinball machine. So again, as a designer, that's something I would key in on, because I know that's like an important part of the game. So whatever I do, I can't mess with that too much. In our case, we have the speakers there, but we got rid of the shadow. The Circus had like a bad shadow in the corners, kind of the artwork. So in this case, we were able to redesign it and kind of get around that and kind of make it better. So people look at the back glass and they'll go, well, I like it, but part of it might be art, but part of it might be it's just a nice piece of art, like it's a pinball back glass.
Right.
So they kind of equate that to, that's what I grew up as a kid. All pinball games had, kind of a giant size hunk of artwork back there. And
and you see that in barcades and people's houses, and that they'll take, a rest in peace game and take the back glass and make art out of it.
Yeah.
Throw it in a box, in the shadow box, and it lives on.
Yeah, absolutely. In the back glass, like I'll show you some Alice in Wonderland. But I mean, we start with the back glass when we do a game. We start with logo, theme, obviously, characters, and then we always draw the back glass first to, because that's kind of the first thing the player sees, or in this case, the pinball owner, collector, and it has to kind of draw them in. So
that's what I was wondering.
So we spend a lot of time.
You just brought up one of my questions I had too. I just wrote today. What are the first things in the hierarchy of designing a game? You said the back glass, art of the name, but
it's really the theme. We'll pick the theme first, and I try and pick themes that are universal and maybe haven't been done. So when we did, say, Theater Magic, Originally, it was Hocus Pocus, which was a Bally game in the 70s. So at that time, that was 20 years ahead in 96. So we thought, well, Hocus Pocus is a good game. And then David Copperfield was kind of busy at that time. So then we talked to him a bit. And then we couldn't get the license with him. Kind of like I couldn't get the KISS license. And then it merged into Theater of Magic, but it went through like 50 names, the Magic Attic, the Magic Palace, and all this type of stuff. And finally, Theater of Magic was just words that people knew around the world. So people in Germany or France or here, it brought us something to their mind. They knew what it was. And, we kind of went from there. So, and the same thing today. So, so Magic Girls, is a follow-up to Theater of Magic, but it's much different. It's a much different game. And Zombie Adventureland, same thing, kind of. I've always liked Cyclone, Hurricane, so it's kind of like, well, the zombies are kind of boring, so how do you take pinball ideas and zombies and kind of mix it all together? So, and actually, it's good, because now with the new Stern game out, the zombie game, which is kind of just, shooting and, kind of destruction and from the TV show, ours is actually more of a good pinball theme, and it's very deep. That there's lots of thematic elements, and and we redrew that. We it started as Ben Heck's Zombie Adventureland, and so we made him kind of evil now. He's Neb. He's kind of this Martian zombie alien guy. But we've added a lot more thematic elements, which is perfect, and that's what I would have done at WMS. The same thing. And then Alice in Wonderland was just like, well, I wanted to kind of stake it, meaning like, well, this is going to be our game, because picking themes now is important for, kind of future business. So because people are like, well, how, why did you do that? Why are you releasing it? Why are you talking about it? And it's like, well, I want to kind of stake the ground to say that somebody else is going to do it. Well, they're going to have to now go against what we're going to do. And then also, I think it fits in with the type of pinball we want to make. Because people are like, well, is it going to be kind of, fruity like the Disney, cartoon? It's like, no, it's going to be, kind of more of a serious work. Kind of like, Addams Family, Circus, Theater of Magic, a couple other games kind of all mixed in to this type of a game, which is perfect for pinball. And then, so actually a lot more people are they're kind of getting it. They're like, okay, yeah, I get it. And it shows also, in our case, just for business, just kind of how we're thinking, the quality of the games, how we go about this. It takes a long time to draw the games. It takes over a year to draw the games, and so you have to kind of keep the artist busy and keep going as you finish up your other stuff. But definitely theme is coming up with something that's kind of cool or new. Sports themes are hard. Motorcycle racing themes are hard. Indy 500, car racing. Those are hard themes to do for pinball. Something that's space, fantasy, monsters.
And when you do the space, fantasy, monsters, you have the realm of, it can be comic, it could be cartoon, it could be kind of graphic novel.
Right.
And so what yours sounds more like graphic novel. Ask than a cartoony.
A lot of people want like humor.
Yeah.
So
kind of
it's
graphic novel, but humor.
It's hard because even like Medieval Madness, that's Monty Python. So it's kind of like, well, so in that case they had a template to use to help, and obviously it's a very successful game. Attack from Mars is humorous but kind of different. My games don't seem to be very humorous. I don't know. And I think style too. So once you come up with theme, and then I like to sketch characters. I like to start to try and find the soul of the game, the zen of the game early, because if you can't find it in the sketches early, you have to drop the theme and move on. So when we started on doing some Alice sketches, it took us a while, and I think we found the soul of the game now. So then we can continue on, because it takes so much time to do this. You just can't announce or you just can't start on something and say, okay, well that's it, that's what we're going to do. Even if it's like, wow, it's just not a very strong theme. We can't find anything interesting. kind of signs will come, so then you have to kind of drop it. And same with Magic Girl. Magic Girl started more as an Egyptian theme, so it was kind of like Pharaoh and kind of theater magic, and then it just wasn't working. And even my wife, she's like, it's just not working. You need to do something else. So we redrew. We threw out all the Egyptian stuff and kept going, and eventually found a look and colors. Colors were last. We're just doing final color tweaking. Colors are so important in pinball, that they come later. So.
And so when you have a vision of what type of game you want to do and where it's going, the kind of feel and the soul of it. I've watched some of your presentations and your interviews, and you speak about how you're a perfectionist of sorts.
Yeah.
How do you utilize that mentality of like perfectionism as the goal? How does it help, like as a mindset to like formulate and create the game? Like how is that?
I think it comes down to details. So, it's just, and I'll show you some artwork, but everything is detail oriented, and it's not acceptable just to throw down something on the play field, at least in my mind. Can we not do more? So we, and I'll just show you here on the Magic Girl play field. This is a good example, or two examples. So this is an arrow spray coming from the right flipper. So this is very Steve Ritchie-ish. Okay, yeah. So I grew up playing Steve's games, and I tell people, and it's great. He drew this, I think, on Superman and on some of his other games. But it's just, and the idea is it sprays back down to the flipper, like the vector line goes. But in this case, we add in, obviously, the lettering, but we also add in this graphic energy thing, which is very much Dave Christensen.
Yes.
So we went back to look at Dave Christensen. So these artists, we teach them to go back and we look at classic pinball stuff and bring it forward. But then all this is it's just three lights, but it's this beautiful piece of artwork, and it all kind of works together, with
this
in this
powerful
case,
contrast, and it kind of visualizes what
most people wouldn't do that. They would just throw down a background layer.
Yeah.
They would put some type over the arrows, and that would be it. You'd be done. Even in these are the exit lanes, the Jin lanes or the Genie lanes. But look at all the artwork. And this is an exit lane. This is
right.
And we have two Jins. They're different. They look a little different, but the point is, we can do that. There's room for it.
Right.
And people notice that. They'll be looking at it going like, what the heck is that? And then in this case, this is a familiar lamp from a previous game. So we'll kind of go back and do that. And then take this concept of being detailed and being kind of thoughtful in a pinball way, and going all around the whole game, and the game is a series of vignettes. So each section of the game does something different, and this was the hardest part because these are all new artists we're working with. They're all young,
and so you're kind of teaching them the old, not teaching.
Well,
the old,
my style,
inspiring. You're inspiring. It's cohesion. It's their work, their style.
They're talented, but they've never done this. This is pulling teeth to get this.
Well, most people haven't. Most people have never thought to draw pinball art, or have never even, artists do the one style they do, or one media.
Well, they're used to an illustration, which is it's just
like
one
comics?
piece. Yeah, it's one panel, and this isn't. This is a story, and it has movement.
Whereas comics tell a story over hundreds of panels. This is a tale on one.
So it's
piece.
difficult. It took a while, and now we have a method or a language that works, and kind of off we go. And then in my case, just keeping with this idea of having a lot more thought behind the artwork, is we'll build up in layers now as you go up into the game, into the Z space with ramps or magnets or things, mechanisms on the playfield. I try and tie it all in together, so it now becomes more complex because you're complex in the planar way, and many designers will just put down stuff on the playfield and put some ramps on it, and they're done. In this case, we have many layers to move
layers
up.
of art that give it.
Could be art, it could be mechanical, could be lighting, right? So it gets very complicated, especially if you're detail oriented, because you're going to go back and noodle all this stuff. So in my case, it works against me because things take longer. It's just not, I just can't throw down 2 ramps.
Right.
Without, what do these ramps do? Where do they go? Is it
are they part
a
of the story?
Is it part of the story? Yeah. So people don't understand that. They'll call me and they'll say, well, this and that, and it's like, well, it's just I can throw 2 ramps down, but it's wrong. It's just not. We can do more than that. It may take a little more time, and people may not notice, but
right.
I know it's not what it should be. So And also these games kind of live on. So I think there's a timeliness. We have to complete them in a timely way, but also they live on. So that for 5 years from now, this game has to look as exciting as it does today.
Just 5?
Well, just say 5. Yeah.
5's a good.
Isn't that cool? The glow. See how So we've been doing more of that. It's lighting up from underneath the holes, which we never used to do before.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, so if people forget that too, it's not about just making a pinball game. You're making something that has to kind of last. It has to kind of stand the test of time. And
what comes to my mind when I see this, and I think of a full game. When I think of a game, I don't think of just the back glass, the play field, how many ramps. I think of the whole package, the whole
right.
as a whole. Right. So if I look at a game. It's the whole. I'm not thinking of the parts or how many mechs.
I think that's where I have the advantage is that I start, and I always get in arguments with other people in the community, but I start at the concept level up high, and then I work it down. People really don't care at the beginning if I have wonderfully designed brackets that are holding the inside of my cabinet together. They might care later when they lift the playfield up for something, but people are going to look at the game, they're going to look at the back glass and the cabinet, and if there's a topper or something, and how does all this work together as a unit? That's what people see first, and they make their decision in 10 seconds. It's cool or it's not cool. So I can spend all day long underneath and have this beautiful laser cut bracketry and all of this. People don't really care right. if that whole higher concept doesn't kind of jive with them. If they don't see it.
To me, the other way to do it would be the rewind, going backward, not backwards, kind of backwards. Is if someone started with a playfield, they just try to make a playfield that shoots. And I know a lot of people have done that historically with pinball. And then you take that and you try to marry it or Frankenstein it with the theme and the art and everything.
That's the way we used to do it.
But that's typically, right?
That's the way we used to do it. So when I started at Bally, we just made whitewoods that shot well.
Right.
And then they would put a theme on it, and they might say, well, you need to move a couple letters. And sometimes they wouldn't at all. They would, the artist would come up with a name for the game that fit the number of lights that the designer had put down. Yeah, so... But today we can't design that way. It all has to kind of work together, and it's very complicated. So for whatever reason, my brain is able to sort all this out. It just kind of does. So, but it isn't easy. It's definitely it's a nut buster.
So at the same time you're doing the art, you're visualizing what could go where and how that connects.
Everything at the same time.
So how the art connects to the art.
So at Magic Girl, I saw this game finished in my mind before I started. So once the name was chosen, because even people would call and they're like, Magic Girl, that's a silly name. I go, trust me, it's Magic Girl. But I could see the game in my mind. I could see the colors. I could see it. So then I had to now get the team going, get it built, and get it out, which, you know, it took a long time, but so that's kind of like, that's like my I don't know what's the word, like your nemesis, the thing you battle, your demon that you have to battle is, and you know, Python would talk about this. I see pinball circuits in my mind, but then they built it, and I mean, you know, they built what they built, but it's not what he saw in his mind. It's different. So it's the same thing. So I see this, so it helps me because I can see the concept for the game early, and then I'll know, okay, that's cool. So in Alice in Wonderland, like, you know, I see it in my mind. I can see the colors. I can see the game. I can see it. So now we have to, you know, kind of work it out in that case.
So kind of thought creates, because you can't create without the thought. You have to visualize it instead of just trying to scribble.
It's like Star Wars. You know, Qui-Gon had the watch, and they could do the holograph. It's kind of like that it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, shut that off, and then I'll give you a tour.